welcome back to previous viewers, and hello and welcome to any new viewers. We're here today in my workshop and I'm going to be stitching up the back of this saddle. In a previous video I was saying about how to check the stitching on saddles, and we found that this saddle here had some wonky donkey stitching. It was broken actually, and so I have put the saddle in today in the workshop. I've just got to stitch it back up. So I thought, hey, I may as well put the camera up so you guys can watch me as I do it and join me on the not very exciting ride. It's not very exciting, but you might learn something. So sit back, make yourselves a cup of tea and hopefully enjoy. So here I am at my bench. Did you know these are called benches in the saddlery world? They're not called tables or desks or anything obvious like that. They're called a bench. You don't see someone though, you can put your saddles on them. So I'm just going to move this incredibly rude ball of fluff. And I'm going to get started on the saddle. So here is the saddle, and here is the problem that we found when we were looking at it. Can we see here? The back of the panel has come loose, the stitching has come loose. I would like to point out it wasn't that bad before I picked out the stitching a little bit. So I'm going to unpick all that stitching and then stitch it back up again. It won't take long, I hope. There we go. Back is off. If we were doing a full reflock, we'd also take the front off, but we're not, because the front is stitched on perfectly solidly. We're not doing a reflock, we're just stitching this back on properly. So if you're interested in this sort of thing, you might want to watch some previous videos I've done. So I've done a full reflock video where, surprisingly, you see me reflock a saddle in full, and some fault finding videos where you can find like faults in trees or stitching, things like that. So yeah, if you're interested in leather work and stuff like that, then there might be a few on there. Equally, if you're more interested in the saddle fitting side of things, then there are some videos for that as well. If you come along to see Pumpkin, there's really no point, because while she appears in most videos, she's usually asleep. No, she's not today. Not asleep today, are you, Pump? So the stitching on the back of saddles is a little bit tricky. It's probably got a funky name, but I don't know what it is. It goes in like a square. It's like, you know, like the top of a castle, like a turret, whatever they're called, and they go like that. So the stitching is like that, so you kind of go up, along, down, along, up, along, and then when you pull it, the whole thing kind of like knits together. Does that make sense? Anyway, that's the sort of stitching you do on the back of the saddle. The thread that we use for the back of the saddle is the really thick thread. So can you see how thick it is, and also how like waxy it is? Can you see? Look, it just sort of sits out by itself. It's pretty tough stuff. It's very strong, obviously, because it's waxed, and you hear that? Like, it's really waxy stuff. So we measure out our length, cut it, and then we have to find a needle. So there's all different sorts of needles that we can use for this. The type of needle that it requires is a curved needle. So there are a few different types of curved needles. There's ones like that. Little ones like that. And there's ones like that. You see? Nice and curved. Now, most people like these really big manly ones. I struggle with the really big ones, so I've got quite small hands. That's my excuse. I remember when I first learned, I was taught with a certain type of needle, which then when I went into a proper saddlery factory and I used that needle, and they all rolled around on the floor, wetting themselves, laughing, and said I looked like I was about to start sewing up ladies' blouses, but apparently my needle wasn't very manly. But I'm not a very manly person, so I'm going to thread my needle in the way that we do it. So what we don't want to do is have so much because this thread is so thick. One of the things that we do is we get the thread and get the needle and push it through the centre of the thread. And then pull it, and then you don't have quite the same. It sort of makes the whole thing sit a little bit like more, makes it sit a little bit more something. And then the magic way to tie up the bottom is to wrap it around and then pull it down. Meow, meow, meow. A nice big knot at the bottom, because you want a nice big knot on these. I sometimes even put an extra knot in after doing that, because you want a really good, big, bulky, ugly knot, because we don't want it to pull through. Before we start on sewing, we need to line it up to make sure that we're going in the right place. So we've got it lined up, secured in place, and then we're ready to start. Do you remember in the previous video that little stitch at the back of the skirt? So the skirt comes along here and there's this tiny little stitch at the back there that doesn't come all the way through the leather. They are the worst stitches to redo, because you're going to go halfway. So you've got it, like, say you've got a bit of leather here, you've got to go into the leather and back out of the leather without coming through the other side of the leather. Wish me luck, I'm going in. You see that there? So in the leather and out without popping through the surface there. It's all up here for now. Ow! Ow! So do you remember me saying that they were like the top of a castle? So you can see here we're going like that, along there, up, along there, down, along there. So we're going down, along, up, along, down, along, up, along, down, along. And I'll keep doing this, backwards and forwards. And then that's what makes it. Now like pull tight, when you pull all together, they kind of go like that. It's really important to keep pulling it tight every few stitches. No one likes a baggy rig gusset. So now I've got to the midpoint, I can take out this all that I've had stuck in there, and that's just to hold it centrally, because I'm there now, don't need it. It stayed central, or luckily. I'm just going to keep on with these little up, down, up, down. I'm sure they've got a name, I don't know what it is. Stitches. Sometimes you get to a little tricky bit, and you need to go through the hole first with a little awl, which kind of gives the needle somewhere to go. And again, every few stitches you have to put it really tight. You've got to make sure, because those stitches kind of lock in together, so we're just kind of locking them in together. On this side again, we've got to go through that leather. So we've got to go through here, out, going all the way through the leather. Can you see that? So we've got to go in and out without popping it through the front here. Again, not all saddles have that stitch, but it just helps the kind of the back of the skirt sit down a little bit. Because no one wants the back of their skirt flapping up and down. And now we've gone through the flap, we have almost finished. This would be a lot easier if I didn't have a little dog on my desk. Right, now we need to pull it really tight. Take the needle off, otherwise I poke myself in the eye with it, and pull it tight. With this thread, you don't have to worry about it snapping because it's so strong. If it was thinner thread, I would worry about it snapping, pulling it that hard. And then we have to do a little special magic knot, keeping it tight. All the way down. And again, a really big knot because we don't want this coming undone. And one more for luck. And then cut it off. So now the back, sewn back up. So it's now solid. Remember, it was all frayed through here. So now it's back in there. Back of that skirt's down again. Because you've got that little secret stitch in here which holds that skirt down. And on this side. And on this side, all down and all snug in here. So that is that. That's the back of that saddle all stitched back up again. So to recap, we unstitched it and we stitched it back up again. Simples. So the stitching in the back of a saddle is that funny one that looks like a castle top. Turret is it called? And you go up, down, along, up, like that. And what that does is it makes it all lock in together. So the back's now all locked in. The most annoying part really actually is that little secret stitch there that kind of half goes in the leather. On some saddles I do find it tricky because sometimes that stitch is the one that's pulled out, in which case you haven't got very much kind of leather left to play with. But yeah, got it all done and this is now all ready to go back to its owner. I hope you found that helpful or even enjoyable in some weird way, seeing the back of a saddle getting sewn back on. It's a fairly simple job that we do quite a lot. Not that you can tell how long I take to do it because I'm quite slow at stitching, hence it was all in fast forward, otherwise that would be a really long video. So if you like that sort of video, like, you know, stitching and stuff like that, then there are some other ones like that. There's like a full saddle reflock, and I also do like saddle dissections where we unstitch a saddle and we look inside it and we see what's inside the saddle. And then there's also some other leatherwork ones, but on the whole they're mainly sort of saddle fitting and top tips and how-tos and things like that. So if you're interested in anything at all saddle or saddlery related or saddle fitting related, then please make sure that you subscribe to my channel because it means a huge amount to me and it does really help out if you like things, and subscribe to them and even leave a comment below. I love a comment. Apologies if you can hear that noise, that's pumpkin snoring. It's almost like having my husband in the room. Anyway, thanks again for joining me. It's been a pleasure as always, and I hope you're all staying safe, staying well, and lots of love.